Are we on?
We are on. Good evening and welcome to everyone. Tonight I'm pleased to welcome some of our very own members tonight who are sharing some of their own knowledge, experience, and perspectives. Before we begin though, I would like to welcome Amy. Amy will be opening tonight's meeting with a poetry reading of a poem that she wrote herself. Welcome, Amy.
Thanks, Melissa. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy. I'll just tell you a little bit about me first. I have lived with post-concussion syndrome for almost 6 years after being rear-ended by a T2C bus. I lived in Toronto for almost my whole life, but recently moved to Barrie to be closer to my specialist. I have difficulty with getting around and being in cars. So unfortunately, it wasn't until the lockdown from COVID that I was able to participate in BIST programs. It was very lonely to not have support groups that I could afford to pay for with an Uber or, endure a long car ride that would worsen my symptoms quite badly. I'm really hopeful that the pandemic has made people more aware of the barriers to access, even in an organization that is focused on helping disabled people like this, and that awareness will not fade and that online programs will continue after lockdown is over. Amidst the huge societal shifts brought on by COVID-19, we have a unique opportunity to raise awareness that for some of us, social isolation is a daily reality. One way we can do that is through sharing our stories, such as through art and poetry. Today, I'd like to read a poem to you called Post-Concussion Syndrome. It describes the loneliness of being trapped in the body and home, the experience of battling anxiety and despair, and a hope to one day more actively participate in the world. I was fortunate enough to have my poem published by Grain magazine in their winter 2020 issue. And my hope is that poems like this help to foster a greater sense of community that is more inclusive of those with disabilities and resonate with non-disabled readers or listeners as we collectively grieve curtailed plans, the uncertainty of the future, and societal isolation due to the pandemic. Okay, here we go. Post-concussion syndrome. 1. In the window, light is galloping over clouds. Body, it is lonesome in here when we disagree. For a small, jagged piece of pride, open our arms to burdens to prove we can bear them. And if you can't move out there, at least move in me. Remember? A white sun hung high and faceless in the mist, a porcelain mask. Deer that disappeared left thin antlers in the air, so many branches. We padded through leaf-matted mud, making faint prints the way small hands do when holding hardcover books. We went, looking to look. We found the alligator transmuted to mossy wood, snout of sharp bark, and a gnarled witch's face turned away, distracted. She, being tree-like, rooted or not, we tiptoed past, arm in his arm and steadier for it. 2. Tomorrow, excuse me, tomorrow you will be coming by. I will wait in my room like your books in the mailbox that I didn't finish, for you to leave gifts for Christmas and winces of what was. The hour will surely ascend into an almost certainty before turning its back. We'll be 1 new hour apart. And here, my room will prove things can continue, even when there's no longer another place to go. 3. I don't know what good writing is anymore, not enough to make it. 4. Well, I had 2 mental breakdowns, wash over within sight of each other, and now a concussion slammed into me by a bus. Nurturing needs to be done, not bravery. No more sleeve rolling, just sleep. I'm comforted by another's moments of anguish, these knots that unite us. I admire the courage of counting, of not counting, both. I am humbled by hope, and in turn am humbled to hope that the world remains big and I can climb back inside. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. That was a beautiful poem. Thank you for sharing. First, I want to introduce our first panelist for this evening. His name is Steve, and I'm sure many of us know him. Steve has lived a varied and active life. Educationally, he has excelled, obtaining a master's in engineering on scholarships from the University of Toronto. Steve then went on to practice engineering at a variety of places of employment, gaining experience and resiliency during his career. Then the unthinkable happened. Steve's recovery from this accident has been uneven to say the least. He remains with dysarthria, ataxia, and dyslopia. However, as you will soon discover, he has been restored in terms of other cognitive functions. He continues to push the limits of his recovery, both cognitively and physically. Please welcome Stephen.
Hey, hi everybody. So here's my screen. Time. We we all have this asset in common. How did your accident happen? Mine was like this. All of a sudden, things changed forever. Not too pretty a sight for sure, and this next pic is even less pretty. There I was in the coma, Wayne laced. This is the time right now, approximately. So 2021, 04, 28, 1832 or so. This is the standard time. It's an international system. So how do we react to that? Time. What do you do with it? We're all given the same amount. What do you do? So this is where I'm gonna ask for a little input. You can share or put in the chat whatever you like here. But what do you do with it? Maybe some of you are still in therapy. Maybe your day is full with therapy hours, with going to and fro and worries about therapy, worries about how you're gonna feed yourself, worries about money, worries about everything. You're wondering what life is all about now. Are we all given the same amount of time? What do you do with it? Specifically, what do you do with the waiting time that we all have? How can I use time constructively? What is taught about when waiting on Zoom? These are all parts that we can think about, all parts that we can evaluate for ourselves. What do I do with all the time I have now? How am I going to spend my cognitive energy? Am I going to just veg? I don't think that's a very productive use of time. I did it for a little while, I guess. I'm not sure. Now I've gone to having an active mind. It's what everybody said you wanted before was an active mind. Now I have one. What is an active mind? Well, it's something that considers one thing, and when that consideration is over, moves to the next thing. What we all want to do is try to move towards restoration after an accident. Ever so slowly, in the midst of conventional rehab, one step at a time, relax, progress will be slow, measured perhaps in weeks or months instead of days. This is the truth though. Yeah, everybody looking for progress in you all at first. Everybody wants to see you up and walking smoothly, or speaking normally, or having good vision, but have to relax. Progress will be slow. Some of these things may come back, some may never will. Where to start? At the beginning, of course, with activities of daily living and curiosity. Curiosity is its own reward. Leads to more curiosity and then resiliency. A quote from Madeline in psychology today, are you a curious person? Then you also may be more resilient. So that says a great deal about resiliency and curiosity, how they go hand in hand. I would encourage you to check it out on a Google search and see other things that are related to it. You can ask me questions in the chat. I may not be able to answer them all, but I think the little luck and maybe a help from your therapy support worker, you can find an answer on Google. I guess that's about it for my presentation. Hope you got something out of it and it made you a little bit curious about why I'm like this. Curious about your own journey, curious about your activities of daily living. Trying to do those better and better. Therapy doesn't get much better than that. Just continuous improvement on your activities of daily living, and you will see results more lately in your life. So I think that's it for me. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Stephen. I liked how in the beginning you talked about just the concept of spending time, and how in the beginning, um, you're kind of in like a cognitive loop almost, and perhaps that's necessary for that initial part of healing, that emotional and mental healing after an injury. And then how you mentioned moving into the active mind. And I found that very interesting because, I think of it in terms of, active mind in action, that the drive to move forward and to actually begin recovery and to be able to take part in those activities of daily living, which, truly start to bring about some of those changes and true healing, at least on the outside. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
Thank you, Stephen. Next, I would like to introduce another member, France. Hello, France. After a tragic cycling accident 8 years ago, her life was shattered into minuscule pieces. She was challenged to reinvent herself and look at her values, convictions, and dreams straight in the eye. But there were many unknown fears, disappointments, sorrow, and grief at the beginning. But she knew very soon it wasn't simply a random tragedy, but an opportunity to become herself. Over the last 8 years, recovery has been a roller coaster ride with few endings and happily some new beginnings. Hope, perseverance, stubbornness, and beauty were always present. Her desire now is to share with others the silver lining of this journey as she discovers the intrinsic power that resides in her to create a beautiful life where she is coloring outside the lines. Welcome, France.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and to have this opportunity to talk to all of you. I would like to start by reading something that I post on a blog, like just to give you a little bit of, an outline. So the title of this blog is I Choose to Celebrate. And it was published on May 25th, 2017. And it goes like that. So on May 25th, 2013 was the end of what I felt I knew for sure about who I was for 48 years. A new self was in the waiting room, ready to emerge. Every year on that date, I look back in time to an event that changed my life dramatically. I was not resentful, angry, nor desperate by the challenges that were ahead of me. On the contrary, I was grateful for the opportunity of having the chance to assess what I wanted, who I was, and what were to be the guiding principle that would influence me to keep going in this transitional time after my tragic cycling accident, which, as it turned out, was a gift. What helped me to have this outlook and enable this 360 degrees change is that I had no memory of what happened when I flew over my bike while I was going downhill around 40 kilometers. A few hours after my fall, when I realized I was standing on my 2 feet with no broken bones, only bruises and some serious impact on my brain, my neck, my lower back, as well as the left side of my body, I knew I had been saved for something greater that I can ever imagine. So I would like to say to you that it happened for me. And why do I say that? Is I was lost. I was married for many decades. I had 2 kids. I was not really happy. And I was trying to decide if I was going to stay in my marriage or if I was going to leave my husband. I was living a life of privilege. I was very, economically, like abundance was there. And in some ways, I was refusing to make a step. So when the cycling accident happened, I never questioned, why. Because for me, I knew the why. Is I was not living in integrity and in authenticity. And it was an opportunity for me to have, a new beginning. I always said that I was given, the privilege to have a second chance. So many people who have, a tragedy or tragic accident never have this opportunity. So for me, I had a clean slate. I could start again. I didn't know what was a brain injury. I had no people around me who had this kind of invisible injury. So because I was young, I was 48 years old at the time, I was fit and healthy. The prognostic for my recovery was in no time, you're going to go back to cycling, you're going to go back to your life and with no, ripple effect. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. I spent the first 2 months of my journey in the basement, in the dark, no noise. And in 2013, we didn't know what we know right now. And I decided not necessarily to, how could I say, to go in this journey with a medical, intention. So for me, I had a chiropractor at the time who was specialized, in athlete who had several concussions. So I stayed with him for a while, and I saw a sports doctor who said, again, you're going to be fine, just keep going. But I never went to see any other specialists. I really went on this journey, and I reassessed my life. So the next thing, for me, that is an amazing, amazing question that I still asking myself all the time is, what do you want? And what did I want at the time? I wanted to be living in integrity and like in authenticity. I wanted also to feel that I was more than just a mom and a spouse. I wanted to be me. And I didn't know who was the me. And I'm sure you could like remember, like, you know, at the beginning of this journey, when your brain is so affected. And also for me, I had like physical problem, my left side, my neck, I had vision issue. Emotionally, I was a roller coaster, like, you know, everything was kind of completely different. Even though I was looking in the mirror and looking at myself, I could barely recognize myself. I said, who is this person that I'm seeing in the mirror? Physically, I look like me, but inside, there was a crack, like, you know, something shifted inside of me that was not me anymore. And for people who are like our loved ones or our friends, they look at us and said, oh, you look fine. You look well. What? You're not feeling well? You have pain? Like, how come you cannot do these activities? And even my husband was saying, like, but what is it? 2 minutes ago you were fine and now you're not fine? Like, what happened with you? So, and it was very difficult for me to articulate or to be able to explain because I didn't understand myself. I was on a quest to figure it out. Why am I able to go, like, you know, spend time with my friend, and all of a sudden, like, I'm in so much physical pain and my brain is fried and I need to be like laying down in the dark. And little by little, like, you know, I try to understand. And I think what kept, like, you know, what's kept happening is my desire to learn about myself, because for me this process has been really an inner journey, like, you know, for myself to reconnect with myself. Because I think, like, you know, in so many ways I was living in a body, but my emotion were all trapped, like, you know, they were all, like, you know, kind of I always said I wear a straight jacket for 48 years. I was not connected with my emotion. Something else, and I asked myself, what do I need now? What will be in my best interest right now? Not now always what I want or what I desire, but what do I need now? So do I need to lay down? Do I need to be by myself? Will going out in the forest be, like, you know what, great for me at this time? Will, like, writing in my journal will be, like, you know, something that will help me to go through some sorrow or some emotional, like, distress. So this is like a wonderful question to ask yourself. I would like also to talk about the gift, because I will say there's so many gifts. And I know for some people, like, you know, I could see, like, I have some of my friends, when I say that, like, I could see them like almost cringing, like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? I said sometime, and I know that it could seem very difficult to hear, but I will say it's almost the best thing that happened to me. It allowed me to find myself, to go in this journey, and to realize that I had some untapped potential that was just waiting to emerge. And I didn't know, because I was busy taking care of other people, not necessarily assessing my need, but responding to the need of other people. And it was not their fault. I willingly choose that. So one of my gifts, spirituality. And when I said spirituality, for me, it means I have a relationship with what is greater. What is greater for some people could be God. For me, I call it like an energy. I feel that I am supported. I feel that, you know, that I am co-creating with what is greater. I am there to express myself. I am there to give my gift to others, and also to discover many, like, you know, on tap, like, gift inside of me. Beauty. There is beauty in this ugly process, in this ugliness of having a brain injury. There's so many beauty. I was attracted to beauty. Beauty has always been something very important for me. I love the aesthetic, like, you know what, like the harmony of beauty, but also like I am able to see the beauty in people. I am able, when I go like on a walk, to notice, like, you know, the small droplet of water on the leaf. I am taking time because I was asked to slow down. So I love to surround myself with beauty. Like I buy myself some flowers. I think that this is one of the best gifts that I have from having a brain injury, to be able to notice beauty, to be able to appreciate beauty, and to really invite beauty in my life in all kinds of form. Appreciation. Before the brain injury, I was a very type A person, always on the go, extremely judgmental about myself and about other people. And it took me a long time, even after I had the brain injury, to arrive to a place where I was able to appreciate myself, appreciate my effort, appreciate and being able to notice my progress. As I said, I'm in my 8 years. In less than a month, I'm going to celebrate 8 years. It's a long journey. And to know like how to not get discouraged, how to not let go of all of this and say, okay, whatever, to give up. But no, this is not me. I never did. And I feel like, you know, again, this is that as one of the gifts that I had from having a brain injury. Learning to be kind with yourself. I think before, like, you know what, I was always, as I said, I was very judgmental, very always criticizing me. I had the perfectionism, like syndrome, like always to want everything to be perfect. And I was not really kind with myself. Like, you know, I was not talking to myself with kindness and gentleness and tenderness. And now I am able to do that. I am able to do it for myself. And I'm also able to give it more freely to people. Because I also really believe that what you would like to receive from other people, or how you would like to be treated by other people, is how I should also treat myself. It's how I'm invited to do. So if I want kindness in my life, it needs to start from me. Cultivating a sense of wonder. So being able to, like, you know, like to look around you and be like in awe or something like that is something really interesting and very important for me. Nourishment. How do you nourish yourself? What do you do for yourself that enhance your life? What do you do, like, you know what, like to bring joy to your life? So for me, like a way of nourishing myself could be going into the forest for a hike, or to lay down on the grass looking at the sky. I love to paint. I'm going to show you some of my painting. I love to write. I love also to learn. So I love to read. I love to discover new things. So all of this for me are a different kind of nourishment than food. I love also to eat good food, and I love to cook. So this is like a really, like, you know, nourishment, but I love to nourish every part of my body and every part of my senses as well. Gratitude. This is something that I really, like, you know, that's really changed my life. To be able to be grateful, to be, again, I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful to be able to live, like, you know, in a country where I could express myself, where I have the freedom, like, you know, to go out, like not everywhere now because of COVID, but, you know, like we have so many things to be grateful. I'm grateful to be healthy. I think that when we lose what most of us have lost, like, you know, freedom, we have lost like also some mental capacity at first. We become aware of how precious it is to be, like, you know what, capable to think, to be able to talk, to be able to read and write, because we lost it. So, and I find sometimes it's unfortunate, then we have to lose something in order to be grateful for it. So I make a point that of every day to write like 10 aspects of my life that I'm grateful for. And I believe that it really have a ripple effect in what I am being able to receive. A little bit like Stephen, I will say, be curious. That is such a beautiful, like, intention to be curious. I'm going to open my lights because it's starting to be dark. So being curious about yourself. Be curious also, why is this, like, happening, like, in my life? What could I do? Like, why is this person, like, saying this, like, this point of view, like, like regarding a topic? I've never thought about that. So for me, I spend a lot of time about wanted to be right. Now I want to be curious. It's not really important to be right. Words are powerful. So I'm very, very mindful of the word that I use. So I love the words invitation. So I believe that this traumatic brain injury has been an invitation for me to reassess my life, to look at my life and to make changes and to update my life or to edit my life. So it's just a different way of looking at it. So in that way, I feel that I am empowering myself instead of looking at this injury as almost like a punishment or being a victim. I also love the word allowing. I think for so long I wanted to control everything. So when I'm in control, I'm not allowing anything. I'm trying to kind of steer things on the left, on the right. I want it my way. By being able to allowing, it's also like I'm not working as hard and I'm letting like things to come to me. And after that, I could decide what I want to do with it. Another word that I also appreciate is attracting. So again, as I said, I feel for so many years, I work endlessly. It was so tiring. So now I'm trying to be mindful. I have my intention and I'm saying, okay, this is what I would love to, like, I'm trying to, with positivity and with also letting time, like, go. I don't need everything to be ready like tomorrow. Like within letting time and always like not working towards my intention, I could attract what I would like to have. And here are some like words that I call heavy words. And these words for me are like part of a language of fear. I should, I need, I can't. I feel these words are very heavy and they're very like limiting me. I could choose also to use light words like I can, I want, I am willing, I choose, and I desire. So I feel that I have more power, I have more a say when I said I am willing to, or I choose, or I desire than if I said I need to. So it's just like a different way to look at the impact that you could have in your life by just tweaking a few things. So before I'm going to end up like my presentation, I would like to show you some of my, I will say, creative project. I call it creative exploration. So in some of these, on this project, I use some threads and some of the brown also are leaves that I collect when I go in forest. So I love to include elements of nature. Here are like two examples. And I am not really interested to really, paint something like, that makes sense. Like, I'm really interested in abstract art. And I try to get out of my head. For me, it's really important to be in my heart and follow, like, the guidance and the intuition that, that is coming, like, through me. So I hope that my talk had give you some hope, because this is really something very important. I always said that hope and I are very good friends. So I wish you a good evening. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, France. Thank you. One of the things that I think really stood out to me, and I'm sure to a lot of our members, was there was a very poignant sentence that you started off with, and that was to let go of expectation. You know, and I think when you do that, you're kind of letting go of who you're supposed to be. And, you know, with that sort of perfectionist personality, that type A personality where, you know, this is where I need to be, I'm goal oriented, and letting that go and becoming more organic in a process based, I guess, you know, experience almost, you know. And I think it was very interesting because it was almost like you were talking about the idea of mirroring when you were saying things like, once you realized, you know, that you could let go of that, you know, and learn to love yourself, that in turn, it allowed you to love others. Because once you let go of that expectation that you had to be perfect, suddenly the people around you didn't have to be perfect. And I really, really loved that. I think it was so beautiful.
Thank you, Melissa, for saying that. And I also said, like, you know, something that I didn't talk, but also it's the power of of being able to receive.
Yes.
So many times, like, you know, I think people around me wanted to give me like things, but I was not capable to receive. So by doing this inner journey inside, like, you know, at myself, like, you know, and looking at this exploration, I realized, like, you know, then I was able to open my heart. Like, I find my heart was really close. As I said, living with a straight jacket, your heart is completely, like, you know, protected. But as you go in this journey, you discover your beauty, and the beauty that I'm able to see it outside, I'm also able to see my own beauty, which is a beautiful gift.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you so much, France. I truly appreciate that.
Thank you.
So up next, we have another member, and I would love to welcome Bob. I'm sure many of us here at BIST know Bob. He is a passionate community advocate. He has many affiliations with advocacy groups and community initiatives. And some of those include being an ODSP advocate, being a BIST member, Food Share Toronto Advisory Committee, Acorn Toronto, which is the Association Community of Reform Now, and he is the chair of the York Southwestern Toronto Community Hub Neighborhood Pods Advocacy Pilot Project, as well as the Walk and Cycle York Southwestern Committee member. Welcome, Bob.
Welcome, everybody, and boy, that's a hard one to follow, Franz. But how many times do we have we been told, well, you know, you look okay to me. What's the problem? I always get a chuckle out of that because it's just it just kind of makes you wonder. I don't really have a prepared speech. I'm not a professional speaker, and I'm just going to kind of flow through it. I had my injury in 2011. I had an aneurysm. When I was discharged from the hospital, there was no follow-up. There was no post-care. I really didn't have any assistance. I was on my own. I wasn't able to go back to work. I tried to go back to work because I wasn't earning enough money on 2/3 on short-term disability from my insurance, and I just wanted to get back to work. I found it around for a couple years. I was lost. I went through all my savings. I was living on credit cards, going through the Ontario Doesn't Work program, waiting for my Ontario disability to be accepted. I was struggling. I was lost. I had no help. I had no allies. I had a doctor that couldn't put a sentence together. And I was struggling. I was struggling. And then one day when I had no money, I didn't want to call my friends or my family because I was too ashamed. I didn't have any money for any food. I mean, I had nothing. Then I decided, out of sheer desperation, I have to go to a food bank. It's a memory that never leaves me. I had to stand in line at a food bank to get food so I could eat that particular day. I was so hungry, I didn't have the money to take the bus. I couldn't drive because doctors would, at that point, I wasn't allowed to drive. They wouldn't allow me to drive a vehicle, obviously, because of my injury. I was eating my food on the walk home from the food bank because I was that hungry. I was eating food out of a bag, whatever I could have access to. That I was eating food out of a bag. I thought, man, how could this happen? How could this possibly happen? I was a certified scuba diver. I was a race official with Alpine Canada. I was certified through the International Ski Federation. I was playing baseball. I was an active golfer, a cyclist. I mean, on and on. Then one day it changed. So the day that I went to that food bank, things changed dramatically because I couldn't accept the fact that I had to go to a food bank thinking that, what have I done? How could I put myself in this situation? Upon going to that food bank and dealing with that feeling, I thought, well, I'll volunteer at that food bank because I felt guilty, number one, I was there in the first place. So why don't I volunteer to that organization and help out a little bit and just see what happens? Why don't I at least earn, at least if I'm visiting once a month, at least I can earn, what I'm taking in a bag. And then things started to change for me. I volunteered once a week doing dishes at lunchtime. No human being would ever volunteer to do dishes, but I did because it kept me busy. It kept me active, but also letting them know, going through the paper at the food bank, that I have a lot of limitations, sounds, lights, standing, I mean, on and on, a lot of mobility issues. But I'd like to give it a try to see how my body's going to react, what's going to result from me doing this. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least I tried. It was a measuring stick for me to see what my body, what my brain would allow me to do. That was the best one of the best moments in my life of volunteering that particular day, because it opened up a whole new world for me. I found and had the opportunity to network with different communities and different organizations. I changed my doctor. My doctor requested all my medical information, and we started from day one. Put me up with a new neurologist, put me with, line me up with cognitive testing, all the testing and prodding that could be done. Set me up with, let me know about, through a social worker, I got linked up with a CODA worker that visited me every month for 2 years to make sure that I was functioning okay. Things started to progress. I started to join different organizations and through volunteering at food bank and food kitchens, markets and things like that. And I happened to have the glorious opportunity of finding about other organizations, and it was an opportunity for me to network and try other things and open up many doors for me, and really understand the meaning of food security or about housing. I also had the opportunity to do many programs. I enrolled in every program, every schooling, anything I could do to put myself in a better place tomorrow than I am today. And the doors just opened. I eventually attended meetings with an organization called Acorn Canada. Acorn Canada is the Association of Community of Reform Now. I became active with them and started to deal with issues about, you know, Toronto's just not a affordable city. I started to learn about rent control and healthy homes and about rent evictions and about better social assistance, fair banking, you know, and accessible internet. And eventually I ended up being at City Hall all the time, doing deputations at committee and talking about housing. Sitting down with our social services minister, Todd Smith, and talk to him about numbers about the inhumane treatment of Ontario disability recipients, how we're being criminalized in Ontario. We can't afford to live in Toronto on Ontario disability, which is 1169. I mean, the math is not hard. Our provincial government, our friend Mr. Ford, for his people, come out with a number of 2,000 for CERB. Well, the minimal amount for an individual just to basically get by, 2,000 CERB, 1169 Ontario disability. Who's doing the math? We're able to work. I'm able to do a little part-time job. I'm clawed back 50% after $200. It made me aware of how housing in Toronto works and about the food security. And through progressing with these different organizations, I didn't know who my city councillor was. I didn't know who my MPP was. I didn't even know what they did over there. I didn't even know what a food bank was, other than you go there and pick up food. I had a great opportunity to learn about these things and went through different stages. And now I get my voice to be heard. We've got to make sure that we all understand that our voices should be heard, that we talk to our members of provincial parliament and our local city councillors and our federal MPs to tell a little bit of our story about the changes of policy that needs to be done here in Canada, and especially in Ontario. These are opportunities for us to speak for ourselves, to advocate for ourselves. Now I get the opportunity to sit in their office and talk to these individuals. Now through Zoom, I get the opportunity to talk to different community members and what their issues are about housing and about nutrition and about transportation and about internet access, about computer access to hardware. Getting involved in my community or in other communities as a volunteer opened up so many doors for me, and it made me progress mentally and physically to show that my voice is important as anybody else's. Everybody's voice is important. This was a springboard to get me to speak about these issues and play hardball with our city councillors that dilly-dally and dance around. This is our city in Toronto. This is our land. We can't be giving it away. Why doesn't Ontario disability recipients have an opportunity to have easier access for the fictitious Toronto Connections housing that has approximately 80,000 people waiting? Why can't we get rent geared to income to supplement our income? We've got to understand the importance of housing, nutrition, mental health, how they're all connected. And we need them all. And we've got to tell our politicians about these issues. We've got to make them listen. We don't have to it's easy to get them to listen. It's to get them to hear what we have to say about what our issues are in our riding, in our ward, in our communities, because they are paid by the taxpayer. You know, your local MP receives $2,300 a month in housing allowance. You know, an Ontario disability receives $497. Where am I going to go for $497? 86. I've been laid off from my part-time job for the second time because of COVID for a little spell. 86.2% of my Ontario disability goes towards shelter. I mean, how come our friend Mr. Ford can't figure out the math that we are telling our Ontario disability recipients we're not worthy. we're not productive. We're just in the way. And we've got to let our politicians know this, because they get into office by our votes. So there's a lot of push now for the NDP. Everything's about housing. All elections now, provincially, municipally, and federally, the biggest priority of every campaign, every politician, is going to be about housing. We've got to get rent-geared income housing in Toronto. All these opportunities to talk about all these various things started by volunteering. That made me understand that I'm just not going to sit at home and do nothing anymore. I want to be active. I want to create change. I want to create change in policy in the city of Toronto. And I've been part of policy change, and I've seen it done. It's a lot of work, but we've got to let everybody know that everybody's voices in every community, anywhere in the world, our voice is important, and it's extremely important that we give everybody an opportunity to speak. I've also in the past done talk about rent control. I'm well versed in that. I've been involved in Rent Safe TO, Health and Landlord and Tenant Board, which our friend Mr. Ford cut by 1/3 their staff. Also cut the legal 1/3 in 2019 for individuals that are facing evictions because they've lost their jobs because COVID. We shouldn't be kicking these people out of their homes. There's one thing that not paying your rent. There's another thing that you can't pay your rent because of you're not working. We got approved a campaign, and we initiated a $20,000 legal fund for some of our members to seek representation to when they're addressing to the landlord and tenant board. I mean, I can go on all night about that sort of thing, so I won't tie up anybody's time anymore. If you have any tenants issue, or about housing, or about rent control, or about Rent Safe TO, and about Ontario Disability, we've got to get the Ontario Disability change in the province of Ontario. It's the most important thing. Our voices are important. Every single voice is important. And thank you, everybody, for allowing me to speak today. And I'm welcome to I welcome any questions at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That was a really powerful presentation, actually. And you're right. I mean, you can continue to talk because there's so many layers of just societal challenges that we're facing, especially right now. I mean, you mentioned the CERB, which came out because of the pandemic, and people all over Canada lost their jobs. It almost leveled that playing field, and I feel like at this point, because if we remember through social media, through news broadcasts, people were up in arms because trying to live off of $2,000 a month was impossible. How are we going to pay our rent? There's people in rental arrears because $2,000 is not enough. And you're correct. We didn't stop to think. What about the people who, for decades, have been living off of about 60% of that income? And I find it interesting just because you mentioned when you were in the beginning, you mentioned that you had no supports and there was nobody to really advocate for you. And where do you go? This is a brand new world. You were a working class person, typical day, going to work, working hard, paying your bills, and then it's gone. And it's interesting how, sometimes I think that our personalities, our varying personalities, I think that sometimes people respond to that type of crisis and to that void by becoming what it is that they needed, and ability to so strongly advocate in so many different social spheres is, very telling of, who you are as a person, and I think that, you mentioned the importance of volunteering. And I think that, volunteering is a really great way to, I guess, reestablish your identity, without loss of any of your benefits, but really start to, own who you truly are. When everything else is taken away, who are you? And, Bob, you are truly an advocate. That's who you are. And I think that, as people, we all know that there are more. We've all read the memes. We've all heard the adages. There are more people than there are government. And if we all come together, there is possibility of change. And so, even though it's hard and you're kind of trying over and over and over, and you're hearing no's and negatives for so long, it's still so important to keep going and to keep, building bigger and bigger responses as a community to affect that change, because without people like you, we don't move anywhere as a society, I do see that, so the chat box has been moving through this whole thing. I will address some of the things that came up in the Q&A and in the chat box. And then I wonder if, and go ahead and respond in the chat box or in the Q&A if you're on board, but I wonder if we would even like to open up and just start talking, having a little bit more of a discussion. But first, I'm just gonna look into the chat box. I know people were really enjoying all of the different perspectives this evening. One member actually spoke about a Zoom that was happening or is happening through Acorn on affordable housing. So I guess that's happening in tandem.
It's happening right now. I'm supposed to be speaking at that meeting. I believe we have, but we have others that can fill in, and this was more important.
Well, I'm so thankful.
That's going on right now. I think we have, I'm not sure, I think we have Councillor Mike Layton.
Amazing.
Doing that. We have city councillors, many city councillors that join us in these town meetings. We have open discussions with these councillors all the time. Now mainly obviously through Zoom, but we would go right to their office and sit down with them for a couple of hours and just hash through different things. We get a lot of support, we get a lot of allies. We've got change. We've got to change the housing crisis here in Toronto. And it's got to be done right now. So
yes.
I'm supposed to be at that meeting, but I passed on my discussion to one of our other members.
Well, I want to say thank you because I feel privileged now to have you sitting here and speaking with us, which I truly appreciate it. And I know that a lot of our members do as well. Perhaps even in the future, if you'd like to share some of those virtual events with me, I will try to get them out to members because I think it's really great. And I think that it's something that, we can all do as a community, to support each other and to effectively create that change.
I would like to slide one quick thing in,
sure.
If I could, because it's important. If you find out who your city councillor and you get on your on their mailing list, you'll find out which what events are going on in your ward or your area. All our meetings are Acorn meetings. We do a lot about tenants' rights and a whole bunch of different campaigns. All the city councillors, majority city councillors and local MPPs will post this information. But if you want to find out what's going on in your community, your member provincial parliament town halls or your city council town halls is a great source. It's a conduit of information on what's going on in your community, and it lets you know of programs or meetings or get-togethers or chats that's going on that might interest you. There's a lot going on. It's a great way to source information. I can't suggest that. I suggest that it's a great source of information to link in your community through those two sources. You get a feel of what's going on in your community. There's a lot of projects. There's a lot of things out there that you might be able to utilize that you just don't know about it. It's a great way to reach out to find out what's going on in your community.
Thank you for that. I have one question that I believe is for France. Someone has asked, where do you do your art therapy?
I do it like I have a teacher, like then I work with, but I also do it on my own, because my desire, I have big dreams. It's not something that I talk about, like I have big dreams, and one of my dreams is to become a prolific creative artist who's going to have exhibit like in France, New York. I don't know. I dream big. I
Yes.
never go small. So yeah, so I do it like now through Zoom, and in the past also I did watercolor printing. So I didn't show that, but I did that maybe 2-3 years after like I had the brain injury, and it was like a complete different process. But as I said, like that has been kind of quite a revelation for me to be able to express myself. And I love how my art is also kind of a mirror of what I'm going through in my life.
Yes. That was a great question, because I think that sometimes we think that we need to learn how to create art, but truthfully, art is all around us, right? And sometimes it's just that little bit of inspiration or a little bit of that initial bravery just to jump in and just create, just freely create, right?
Yes, and as I said, like for me, when I'm doing like what I call my creative exploration, I always said, I don't want to go and use my head. Like, I don't want to be planning. I don't want to copy things. So I really want to go with my heart. And I said, okay, whatever like happen needs to happen. I have my intention. And after that, I go and I see what I'm looking to be surprised.
Yes. Yes, because it really is a process, right? It almost mirrors what you were talking about earlier, you know? And art truly is. It's its own form of self-expression.
And healing. It's an amazing way of healing yourself as well.
Yes, I agree. Another person has asked, how do we deal with the most forgotten ABI individuals who are not properly housed and fed? That's a tough one. Does anyone want to talk about that? Does anybody want to touch on that? I know that we can't provide an answer, although we would love to, but would you like to talk on that, Bob?
Well, I'd like to mention there's so many individuals that are left behind, and there's so many individuals that are on their own that suffer in silence daily, minute by minute. We've all been there. I would say contact your local city councillor, and contact your via email and by phone, contact your local member of provincial parliament, and contact your local MP and ask them that question. Ask them that question and follow up. If you email, follow up with a phone call, and keep contacting them until they give you an answer. Let them know who you are.
And also, Bob, if I might say, like, see some action, because I think like lots of words, like sometimes it's just words. So I think like and I'm so like I could so resonate, not on the same issue as you, but for me, I find that in this process, it's also about finding your voice. So that's why for me, asking for what you want is so important, because so many people are also afraid, and they don't want to kind of like, they don't want to feel that they're needy, or they don't want to impose on all of this. But people are not reading our mind. So they don't know. So we also have a responsibility. And I say that sometimes to my friends who have a traumatic brain injury. How does people around you know that, you know what, the light is affecting you? They don't have a brain injury. They don't know. And yes, you told them last month, but in their day-to-day life, they don't remember that. This is not important. So I can't emphasize enough about speak your truth. And maybe you're not going to have the result that you want, but at least you're going to honor your need and your want. This is the most important things.
Yeah. You always have to, in these types of situations, especially with the politicians or city staffers or municipal staffers, or is you have to have an ask.
Yes.
I want to ask a question, and
Yes.
I want you to answer the question. You're not always going to get an answer, but then you always got to go into a question that you want to ask. You want to come out of there with something. And if you don't get the ask you're looking for, what is your secondary ask? You've got to go in there with a goal. What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to get done? And I'm not going to go away until you respond.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And sometimes also no means not yet. Sometimes, like, you know what, some people, when they receive a no, they just go back. But I love the idea, Bob, that you are saying, okay, this is not possible, but what is the second one? What is something that, you know what, that I could have if I can't have this one? So again, I think it's just keep knocking. Sometimes it's not the right door. Go to another door, go by the back door, the side door, like, you know, like, don't give up. Never, 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 never.
What we will do at the Acorn, and we've done it in many occasions, we've done to Chrissy Freeland's office, we've done to Christina Elliott's office, we've done to Todd Smith's office, we've done it at Doug Ford's office, many politicians, many MPPs. If you ignore us and you don't give us a response, we'll get 100 people out there in a couple of days, and we'll get 3 or 4 news crews out there, and we'll put you on the news. Maybe you can ask a question then. So they're scared to death of that. They don't want us out there. So they know that if they don't give us something, we will be back tomorrow, and we'll be back next week, and we will never ever go away. Stop dodging us. Let's have communication, and let's talk about the issues at hand. We get a lot of politicians that love us and a lot of them that hate us. But we want change. We need, we need affordable housing in Toronto. And don't be afraid to call a councillor out. When a councillor's dancing around, call them out on it. I do it all the time. And although I won't be maybe going to dinner with some of those individuals, but they know that we're not afraid to ask the hardball questions. Councillors hate to be asked questions like, Anna Bialo. You talk about deep affordable housing. Can you please tell me what is the difference between deep affordable housing, or what's the difference between deeper affordable housing? When you ask her a question like that in committee,
oh my,
it gets the point across. Don't talk to us about affordable housing. Talk to us about rent geared to income. Forget about the term affordable housing. It doesn't mean anything. It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. And you're right, it goes back to that sense of that, the idea of advocacy and how strong advocacy is in social change, on a smaller scale, just to put it out there for people who may be listening, on a smaller scale, if anybody is struggling with access to food or resources, I really encourage you to call our warm line. Our warm line is available Monday to Friday from 12 to 4. The phone number is 416-830-1485. It's also on our website. And you can also email any of us, but you can email me at connections@bist.ca. And we'll see if we can get you connected with any resources that you do need. Because as much as it's important to start moving this forward and start to, you know, I mean, like, to be honest, ideally, we wouldn't need food banks. We wouldn't need rent geared to income, because things would just be affordable. We would be able to access our human rights as Canadian citizens. Unfortunately, right now, people are still really struggling. So if you are in need of access to resources, please don't hesitate to call. We will connect you as best we can. You can find our warm line phone number on our website at bist.ca, or you can also call 416-830-1485. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we put that out there for everyone.
Good point.
I'm just checking around. Are there any other questions, or would you like, just like, if you wiggle your little mouth, there's a little raise hand button there. So you can also just raise your hand, but would you like to have a few moments just to talk openly? We have about 15 minutes left, or we can end the meeting a little bit early, and I'm leaving it up to the attendees, the attendees tonight. I'm going to give about 2 more minutes just for any questions.
Melissa, I have a question.
Yeah.
I would like to know, what is the most precious gift that you got from having a brain injury? Like, I would like to ask the panelists, but if other people would like to answer that, I'm just curious. What is the most precious gift, or what is a revelation, or what is something that you said, wow, because I had a brain injury, I'm able to do that, or I'm able to see this way, or?
Such a poignant question.
For me, it's the understanding what community means.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. Amy, I see your hand is up.
I would say greater self-reliance. I mean, you're kind of forced to advocate for yourself, like suddenly in every way, you know, with social assistance, your family doctor, since, you know, concussion isn't that well understood, having to do your own research, all whilst, you know, trying to figure out a new normal. You know, it's kind of like earth shattering, and now you have to rebuild, and so much of it comes from you, you know, from yourself. Yeah, so I guess greater self-reliance in the way that I'd have to advocate for myself, even, like, you know, just to say, this is what I need to take a break, whatever. And also, I've made a ton of mistakes as well.
Yeah.
And if I could go back in time, I would, but I didn't really have anyone to help me say, like, pick a lawyer or, you know, do this or that. And at the same time, having to make all these decisions in a short period of time, well, 6 years, but still, like, so many more decisions on my own than I ever had to do before. You know, that's off script, you know, for someone in their 20s. Then, yeah, I guess learning to accept the mistakes I've done as well, which is also, I think, just as important as learning how to make decisions.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be it for me, I think.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you for that. I see a couple of people also added life. Life is the greatest gift.
Absolutely.
Another person wrote, a chance to produce a piece of artwork that helps other ABI individuals. Mhm. I think sometimes, I mean, you know, it kind of goes back, right, to that sense of community. I think that one thing, once you've kind of stumbled around that darkness and then ended up, you know, in the ABI community, suddenly there's all these people, you know, and having that sense of not being alone, you know, and learning about the type of language to use, you know, learning that it's okay to ask for help, you know. And I think that um, for a lot of people, there is, especially when you live in a city, I mean, I know that we kind of come from everywhere, but I think that especially in a city like Toronto, community is something that feels like it's greatly lacking. And with the community at BIST, or the brain injury community as a whole, I think that it truly does lend itself to feel like that sense of community, that sense of a place where, you know, you can come in and there's no explanation needed. You know, you are who you are and you're accepted as you are, and you can grow and learn. So, yeah, France, do you have an Instagram?
Yes, I'm going to put it there. Yes.
All right.
So the name of my my group, like I also have, like I also created like a support group in Oakville in 2017, and this is the name of my group, of the group that I created. It's Standing by Your Side. So I want people to learn to stand by their side, and as I am learning to stand by my side.
I love that.
So,
do you mind if I just read it out, just so that people who are watching after this is recorded won't be able to see the chat box? So France's Instagram is one word: standing by your side. And that's her Instagram handle. So take a look. I'm sure there's some beautiful posts on her Instagram from our lovely artist.
And about other people, other like panelists or other people in the audience.
Oh,
like, you know, I think, like, you know what, why not, like, what for me, it's all about, I'm very big on community. So what about, like, you know, like raising each other, like bringing like what people are doing, like, you know, like, again, this sense of community for me is not just at the meeting, it's out there between the meeting. Like, how could I support you? Do you need help? Do you need assistance? Like, you know, I really feel like, you know, if someone would like to share, like, you know, I will be like really happy to support you and to follow you.
Yeah, Stephen, Bob, Amy, do any of you have any social media accounts that you would like to share publicly and connect with other members of the community?
I myself don't. I don't participate in Twitter. I used to, or in Facebook, because I bring up a lot of political issues. I've done participate in many articles in the Star and on radio, things like that, and it creates some you know, you always get a lot of uh, you always get you know, a bunch of hate groups out there that will especially when you talk about disability, right? You get a lot of negative stuff. So I gave up on that, and I save a lot of time every day not participate in that anymore. But I do check out many sites. But I don't participate in myself. I do it in closed groups.
Oh, okay.
You know, through Slack or Doodle and that sort of thing. There's a lot of haters out there, especially you know, because you know, Francis, as you're saying, well, you know what, you look okay to me. Why don't you just go get a job?
I get that very.
Oops.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go. So I do have Instagram, but I think I have like 10 posts over the years. I mostly use it to follow people. But if you want to send me a private message, you're welcome to do so. My Instagram is my name, AMY YLHSIEH. So H like Henry, S like Sam, IEH.
Sorry, you're too fast. My first name is French, huh? So for me to convert sometime the later, so I have Amy, and after that you lost me.
Oh, and then it's Amy, and then YL,
okay,
and then HS like Sam, IEH.
Okay. Perfect. Yes, I will. I would love to see because I love your poetry. I would love to see what you're creating, and again, I think it's all about supporting each other, raising awareness, and also shining our light, because we're not done. We're not finished. We're not just I'll say a pariah. We are there. We are taking space. And my desire is for people to shine, to give them a space to be heard, to be seen, and to shine, and to reinvent themselves as often as they desire to do.
Yeah, looking forward to connecting.
Perfect. Me too.
Stephen?
Yes.
Do you have a website?
I do.
Would you like to share your website?
Sure. It's www.afterabirehab.com.
Perfect. So www.afterabirehab.com.
Yeah.
Can people purchase your books from your website?
Not directly, but there's a link to it.
Perfect. So I strongly encourage people to go onto Stephen's website and support our other BIST member in any way that you can. Is there a way to connect with you as well?
Any ways you can is afterrehab@gmail.com is one way.
Perfect. Afterrehab@gmail.com. And is there another way?
Of personal Facebook and of a Facebook business Facebook site also.
Oh, you have a business page on Facebook.
Yeah.
And what is that one called?
Acquired Brain Injury Rehab.
Acquired Brain Injury Rehab. Perfect. Thank you so much. We actually went a little over tonight. I want to thank the attendees who managed to come all the way to the end with us. Today was such a great evening, I have to say. And I really do want to thank, once again, I really want to thank all of our panelists here tonight. I think that it was a really great evening. And I'm hoping to be able to do things like this in the future in some manner. But until then, thank you so much. And if there are any questions, again, if you are looking for to be connected with any resources, please feel free to call the Warm Line Monday to Friday from 12 to 4 at 416-830-1485. And you can also connect with me at connections@bist.ca. Thank you so much for tonight, and see you next month. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks,
Hi,
Melissa.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There we
Nice meeting
go.
everyone.
There we go.